What's up? We're back for another week, and first off, we're going to be doing UFC 218 today, Holloway versus Aldo 2, and then I'm going to try to do the tough event tomorrow, but it might be on Thursday. I'm not 100% sure yet. I still have to do a little bit of film study on that one. But first, I want to talk a little bit about last week's event, and it was UFC Shanghai, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because it was really a lackluster event, but we went 8-4 on our picks in that one, and Cyril Oscar got a finish in that fight. He got a finish. It was a pretty low-level heavyweight fight, but he had a nice finish. Gina Mazzani got her first UFC win out there. She went out to China, beat Wu, and pretty dominant fight. Abdurakhimov knocked out our boy Chase Sherman, man. That was pretty bad to watch. He knocked him out pretty quick, pretty easy, and Chase Sherman's one of those guys that's pretty good on Twitter, pretty funny on Twitter. So, it's kind of a little bit, funny to see him get a little bit of a taste of his own medicine. But I actually like him on Twitter. I think he's funny. I wish more, fighters would go down that route. So, but Abdurakhimov got a big win. Yadong Song, man, that was a pretty, surprising, eye-opening performance in my opinion. Teenager, 19 years old, went out there and, got that quick finish, and that was real impressive. And that's someone to look for in the future for sure, especially for Chinese MMA. And then, Yan beat Kailin Curran, and I actually thought Kailin Curran showed a lot of heart in that fight. She was getting hit with some bombs, and, I think she won that third round. She was, Kailin Curran isn't the most, talented girl, but I saw a bunch of people were getting on her, talking a bunch of shit, and she came out and kind of defended herself a little bit on Instagram, and I don't know, man. She does try hard. She always puts on entertaining fights, so I don't know. I don't know what people are shitting on her about. I mean, maybe she doesn't deserve to be in the UFC, but, And then Magomed Sharipov had another, great performance. He really almost dominated Shaman Reyes, who's another, he was a newcomer, but he's another, elite-level prospect in that division. And, I love that matchup that he came out and said, Yair Rodriguez, man, they should run that. I think Sharipov would, I think that would be a great fight for him, because I think that he definitely would have the grappling advantage, and I think he has the hands advantage in that fight as well. So, I would love to see it, though. And then next, Alex Garcia, he had a big upset against, the King of Kung Fu, which came in with a lot of fanfare, he just couldn't defend the grappling, man. Alex Garcia was able to take him down and, submit him, and it was a great performance by Alex Garcia, man. It was one of the best performances of his career. That's probably the biggest win of his career, too, Muslim was no joke. He was one of the best, quite honestly, probably one of the best kickboxers to ever fight in the UFC record-wise. So, that was a huge win. And then next, Guang Wang, he got the win over Alex Caceres, and that was a real entertaining fight. Alex Caceres was able to, recover from a lot of big shots, and, he made an interesting fight. Every Alex Caceres fight's going to be entertaining, regardless of if he shows up or not. He usually always at least shows up to put on a fun performance. And so the next fight that they had was Li Jingliang, and he got that big win at China. That's probably the biggest star at Chinese MMA right now, and he got a finish, and that was real impressive. He really took out Zach Otto with ease, man. And Zach Otto isn't someone that people could just take out, and that's 4 in a row for Li Jingliang now. So, he should be getting a top 15 opponent now. And then in that main event, man, wasn't that hard to watch? I don't know, really hard to watch Bisping get laid out like that. Good for Kelvin. It was a great punch, and but I just didn't like seeing that, man. Something about it, just something about that. I just didn't like seeing that. And now I'm hearing that Bisping wants to fight again in March, and for his retirement fight, and I just think that's way too soon of a turnaround. But man, if he really wants to do it, that's going to be his last fight. Just give him someone that's not super dangerous. That's just all I got to say about that one, because it's just hard to watch someone take damage like that, especially like, in 3 weeks' time, so I hope for the best for this big man. And, okay, so now we're going to move on to the UFC 218 predictions, and the first fight on the card is Justin Willis against Alan Crowder, and, it looks like to me that Willis is just like much more, dedicated to his career than Alan Crowder is. Willis is working at AKA. He's, has aspirations to be the greatest of all time. He's at the gym all the time. And, Alan Crowder is, I'm not saying that he doesn't work hard, because I'm sure he does. But, he's a firefighter. He's training at, no gyms that are even close to the level of AKA. He's training in gyms in North Carolina that are just not extremely developed, and he is the more experienced fighter, and he's a grappler. He was on the Dana White Contender Series, and he was able to close the distance with some big. He would come in with some big shots and close the distance, and then go for takedowns, and it was mostly single legs. But when he got on top, he just had no faith in his position, in his top position, man. He didn't think that he could hold the top position, so he wasn't throwing any punches, wasn't throwing any elbows. There was very little power. And, the person that he fought on the Contender Series, in my opinion, I thought was just, terrible. And, so I'm not sure, man. He did almost hit a Kimura at the end of that second round. But, on his feet, he only throws sloppy punches. He does have a leg kick, but, he doesn't seem to have the greatest power on the feet. And, he's only been a pro MMA fighter since 2014, so he doesn't have a ton of experience, but he does have, more experience than Willis. But I still don't think, Willis has fought the better competition, especially lately. He fought James Buchanan, who's, at least a respected heavyweight. Crowder hasn't fought anyone of that caliber yet. And, Willis is just going to have a major speed advantage, in my opinion. And he likes to kind of paw forward with his lead hand, and try to stay long to keep his range. And when he gets that distance, he'll unload with an overhand right. He has a nice stiff jab. And, he has a really good hand speed for a heavyweight. And, he actually mixes up some feints and fakes. And he doesn't just attack, like a brute. Like Crowder kind of does that. Crowder kind of just attacks and doesn't set it up as well as Willis. And then, Willis is also huge, man. He cuts weight to get to 265. And, he has great timing on his takedowns, and when he gets you down, he uses that weight, man, and he's heavy, and he could land some big punches, and, he can definitely get you out of there if he gets a dominant position on the ground. And, he has good timing with his counters, man. He has a big right hook counter, and he finishes that with he also has a left hook, right hook combination, which is really nice. And but a lot of his striking still is one shot and done, but he does have very big power, and he has a solid low kick, and he actually seems to have pretty good cardio, man. I mean, for his size, he went all 3 rounds versus Mulherin. He showed some pretty good striking defense, and he was keeping the range, and Cobley, he was sliding in and out, and looked like he had pretty good gas throughout all 3 rounds. And I just think he's the much better athlete. I think he's the more dedicated fighter, like I said, and I just think that he's going to be able to get on top of Crowder and pound him out, man. So I'm going to say that he's going to get on top of Alan Crowder in round 1 and pound him out with some ground and pound. And in the next fight, we have Jeremy Kimball against Dominic Reyes, and Dominic Reyes came into the UFC with the fucking bang, man. That guy's a devastating striker. He throws in combinations, and he has nasty straight punches, incredible speed. He threw a huge body kick in his last fight against Joakim Christensen that, almost folded him. And he's a great athlete. He's a former Division I cornerback, and he was all-conference and captain on his team. Tried out for a bunch of NFL teams. Didn't work out, so came to MMA, and everyone loved that, right? That he came over, and since he came over, man, he's had a lot of very fast, very devastating finishes. He had a KO of the year candidate over Jordan Powell with a devastating head kick. That's actually a pretty fun video to watch, and he also KO'd Marcos Gavon with a head kick, and he's finished 3 fights in less than a minute, and 4 of his 7 fights have been finished in less than a minute, and only 1 fight that he's had has been out of the first round. So he definitely is a finisher, and he definitely is coming to finish early, and he's fighting Jeremy Kimball, who's Jeremy Kimball's going to have a lot of the advantage with experience over Dominic Reyes. He's had a pretty long MMA career now, been training out in Colorado, but he isn't nearly the athlete that Dominic Reyes has been, and he just looks like he could easily be a 185er to me, man. He has a lot of fat in his midsection, but he does have decent speed, and he has obviously some solid power and finishing ability, because in 3 of his last 3 wins, he's finished all of them by KO, TKO. But, he doesn't move his head off that center line, and he has his chin pretty high in the air. And I think that's going to be a big problem against Dominic Reyes. I think Reyes is definitely going to be able to find that chin. But he throws some nice kicks, and he has a pretty good leg kick. And he'll throw spinning back kicks, things like that. But they do look a little bit sloppy. But he did have this pretty sick KO of Josh Stansberry. He hammer fisted him standing up, which was something that you don't really see, and it was a pretty good knockout, to be honest with you. And he has a pretty fast overhand right. He has a nice left straight. He actually goes for takedowns himself too. He has some decent takedowns with some okay timing, and he also has a great chin, man. He's only been KO'd 1 time, and that was kind of like a weird KO where he was fighting in the UFC against, I can't remember who it was, Henrique da Silva maybe, someone like that, and, he fell against the cage and just got, beat up on the ground and knocked out, so, yeah, I just think Kimball is just, he can get way too overconfident sometimes after he hurts his opponents, and he runs in, and I've seen him get countered a lot in his fights, running in after he hurts his opponent, and if he does that against Dominic Reyes, he's going to get knocked out, man, and he overextends at times on his leg kick, and it makes him a lot easier to hit, and he also gets his back stuck against the cage a lot, so all those things I think are a recipe for Dominic Reyes to get the knockout, man, and I think Dominic Reyes is going to get him out of there early like he is known to do, man, so I'm going to go with Dominic Reyes by knockout in round 1. And up next we have Sabah Massey against Abdulrazak Al Hassan, and this is a pretty fun fight. Al Hassan, I see him on Instagram. He's working with the Usman brothers. He's putting in some pretty good work. Obviously, Kamaru is one of the best 170s in the UFC, so that's always going to be good work. And he is a devastating striker, man. He has all of his wins are by knockout, and he really comes in, and I think all of his wins are in less than 90 seconds, if I'm correct. So obviously he's just a destroyer early, and he's also a judoka, and he's a multi-time national champion for judo. So he should have some some decent clinch work. But he doesn't really show that in his fights, He just kind of prefers to wing his punches and show his power. But, in his last fight, he was showing, the next level of MMA because he hit Omari Akhmedov with some huge shots. And, Omari is a veteran. He's able to, weather the storm. And, he was able to take down Al Hassan because Al Hassan was kind of, overextending with his punches, kind of really loading up, and Akhmedov was able to take him down, and he is reckless sometimes, throwing huge shots and huge looping right hands that definitely get him out of position for someone that'll want to take him down. So that's something that he definitely has to improve on, just being more composed in the cage, not just going out and trying to get the finish so quickly. But, he does have a great knee in the clinch, great knee to the head, and, he doesn't really gas that bad. In that third round, he was showing a pretty deliberate pace against Omari Akhmedov. And in that third round, he was really landing some big shots, and I think he actually won that third round against Akhmedov. So he was landing some hard leg kicks, and he was moving Akhmedov back, putting his back against the cage, and so he was doing his game plan. He was actually not just acting like a berserker out there, so that he did show a little bit of improvements in his fight in that one. His right hand is very loopy, and it makes me nervous that if someone could catch him off that right hand. But he also has a great uppercut as well, and he did show he had a good chin, because he did take some big shots by Akhmedov, and he was, willing to brawl in the cage. He was willing to, take some shots by Omari to land his own, and he wasn't backing down, man. And Omari was able to take him down, like I said, but, he was able to get right back up, and in that third round, he was the one almost finishing Akhmedov. He was throwing some nice combinations, and, so he was looking pretty good, and he's fighting Sabah Massey, who's Sabah Massey's another guy with big power, and he throws big power punches, and he really has power in his left and right hooks, and he has great ground and pound if he gets you down, and he has good timing with this ground and pound too, because he put out some guy with some great hammer fists. Some just like right when he put his hands down, he was able to slip it right through the guard there. And Massey has yet to beat anyone in his career that I really was looking that's very good. And every time he kind of hit that higher level of competition, he's taking a loss. Man, he lost to Tim Means. He lost to Reggie Pena. He's another guy on the regional scene who's a decent fighter. He has a loss to Ricky Legier as well. And, he's a guy that comes in kill or be killed, man, because he's been finished in 5 of his 6 losses, and he's finished 10 of his 11 wins, man. And 8 of those wins are by knockout, so he's definitely a knockout artist. And, that guy's an extremely confident fighter. I remember listening to his interviews before he was fighting Tim Means, and he's coming in on short notice, big underdog, and he had all the faith in the world that he would win that fight. And he did get beat up pretty bad by Tim Means, but he showed some great confidence and some pretty good heart in that fight, because he got battered, and he didn't give up. But he has some fast, straight 1-2 punches, and he does overextend at times on that 1-2, leaving him open for a counter, and that's really nerve-wracking against Razak Al Hassan, man, because that guy, all he needs is one shot to put you out, man. And Massey and him both get very wild attacking, and they both leave themselves open, man. So whoever lands first in this one is probably the guy that's going to be winning, and Massey's definitely more heavy with his hands than his kicks. He was landing a lot of nice leg kicks against Tim Means, but they didn't seem like they had a huge amount of pop to them. And he was trying to use movement against Means and kind of like blitz in with attacks, trying to kind of disguise when he was going to come in and come out. But Means was able to get his timing. He started to catch him when he was coming in, and he really started, picking Massey apart. But he did take Means down with an explosive takedown in that first round. And but it does seem like if he uses a wrestling game plan, he tends to gas out a little bit, and he isn't nearly as good when he's getting backed up against the cage and he's forced to move backwards. He starts to throw looping shots, trying to get his back off the cage. And, Tim Means was just able to, see all their shots coming and land these short elbows, really cut him up and land these, fast, short punches. And, he was really, able to beat up Massey by doing that. And Massey did show that he had a pretty nice step-in knee, and he had a decent takedown. But like I said, if he uses his takedowns, it doesn't seem like he has much for his takedowns. Once he gets you down, it doesn't seem like he has the greatest jiu-jitsu game or anything like that. And it just doesn't seem like he has the gas tank to use a grappling heavy game plan. Whenever he tends to do that, he tends to gas out when he uses grappling. So, I do think Hamas is the more refined fighter. He's maybe better, technically. But I just think he's too hittable, man. He's too willing to get in a brawl. And, I'm just not sold that Hamas is going to be able to take that power of Al Hassan. And I think Al Hassan also has better cardio as well. So I think Al Hassan's going to be able to push him back, to start the fight. He's going to be getting Hamas on his back foot. And I think that Hamas will have his back against the cage a little bit too much in that first round. And I think that, Al Hassan will be able to catch him, maybe mid-late first round and, knock him out in that fight. So I'm going to go with Al Hassan. And in the next fight, we have Amanda Cooper against Angela Magana, who's, probably the most popular fighter in the UFC, right? Everyone loves Angela, but she's fighting for the first time in 2 years, So, and she also, like I said, isn't going to really have the crowd on her side, and I was looking, she's been living in Puerto Rico throughout her whole training camp, and everyone knows the devastation going on there in Puerto Rico. She's, been saying that she hasn't had power and water during her training camp for periods of time, things like that. She's been struggling to find places to train, and, that, along with, being a terrible striker and having a terrible gas tank when you're active and when you're fighting all the time, I don't know, man. I don't think she has very much of a chance whatsoever. She is a good grappler, especially in that first round. She has good takedowns. She seems to be able to control a lot of people. But after that first round, or even the first couple minutes of that first round, man, she completely gasses out. And on the feet, she has terrible striking. She slaps her punches, her chin straight up in the air. And, she's standing just straight up and down. And after that first round, she's just a dummy, man. She's just someone out there to hit. And Amanda Bobby Cooper is obviously not the best fighter either, but she does have some pretty decent power for a female 115er, especially. She has some decent hands. She's a boxer. She has some pretty good experience too. She does only have a 2-3 record as a pro, but she has 11 amateur fights, so that's a decent amount of experience there. She definitely has more fights than a lot of other women, and she's actually not a terrible grappler. She's decent off of her back. She's active. She'll try to attack with arm bars, triangles, kimuras, and she attacks with a guillotine as well. And she does decent at getting sweeps, and she's pretty good at when you're standing up in her guard, she could trip you with her feet and reverse get the top position through that sweep. And she was able to reverse and have a decent armbar attempt on Tatiana Suarez, and everyone knows how good Suarez's grappling is, and she put on a clinic against Viviane Pereira, who was 13-0, and Pereira didn't even get close to reversing any positions or getting close with any submissions. And Cooper was decent. She had a decent armbar attempt, and she was able to reverse position a couple of times, and she made Suarez work for that one. And she has good elbows and knees in the clinch. She showed that against Jamie Moyle on Tough. She really cut her up. And, I just think that Amanda Cooper is just much better. I think that Angela Magana is way more known for her, her internet personality, her beefs with Chris Cyborg, her, her shit talking online, the pictures that she posts online. She's not really known for her fighting. She hasn't fought in over 2 years. So, I just think that's going to be the same story with Angela Magana, man. I don't think she's going to have striking. I don't think she's going to have cardio. And she hasn't won a fight since 2011. That was 6 years ago. And, so I'm going to say that Cooper's going to get the TKO in the second round here. So I'm going to go with Amanda Bobby Cooper in that one. And up next, you have another women's fight, but this one is a little bit more high level, and it's with Felice Herrig versus Courtney Casey.
Yeah, and Courtney Casey is she's a fighter who's been on a pretty good streak lately. She won her last fight in Texas, and it kind of got taken away. It was a little bit of a experience for her because they told her that she failed for steroids or something happened with the Texas Athletic Commission, but they were able to sort that out. And that was probably one of the best performances of Courtney Casey's career. Casey's a big girl, and she's real aggressive. She'll come in with some big 1-2 combinations, and she's very active on top. She lands some big ground and pound if she gets on top. And like I said, she's coming in to kill you. She's very aggressive. And off of her back, especially in her last fight, that's something that she showed much improvement in against Jessica Aguilar. She was just throwing these beautiful up kicks, man, to the legs, and she was hyperextending Aguilar's knee and really making it hard for her to get top position in the guard. And, she can be a little bit too comfortable off of her back, though, at times when people actually get the position. It seems like she'll be maybe a little bit too comfortable, staying on her back looking for submissions when she should be trying to get back up. But, she does have power in her hands, especially for a female. She really rocked JoJo Calderwood early. And she comes in with some combinations in the pocket. And, she tries to paw out a jab. And she isn't the greatest at using her reach advantage. She really crashes the distance a lot and kind of negates her reach. She has a great chin, and she took a lot of bombs from JoJo Calderwood, man. JoJo Calderwood really put a clinic on Courtney Casey, and Courtney Casey was able to survive, and that was her first performance. It was a short notice camp as well, so just to survive with JoJo Calderwood in Scotland, short notice, that was a impressive showing there by Courtney Casey. And she has great cardio. And I think that she's definitely a girl that, you have to break her. And I think that it was good that, not you have to break her, that she won't break, excuse me, and that you have to beat her. You have to beat her the whole time. And I think it's good that someone picked that Felice fought just a girl like Justine Kish in her last fight, because that's a very similar matchup, not in terms of the skill level, just in terms of, the tenacity, the aggressiveness, and the power that she's going to face against someone like Courtney Casey. And, Felice, she's on the best run of her career, man. Ever since her loss to Paige Van Sant, she's come back. She's won 3 in a row, and she's a very well-rounded fighter, especially for female weight classes. You don't see that very often, a girl having a great striking game as well as a very good ground game. And Felice has that, man. Felice, has transformed her body. Now she's one of the, most physically strong looking women in the whole entire UFC. And she has great cardio. And, she comes in with great technique, man. She comes in, she uses great single leg takedown. And she's also very good when she gets in the clinch. She's able to get double underhooks and really, manhandle a lot of these girls, just drag them to the ground. She's just very physically strong. And on top, she's really good at getting the back, and she'll hunt for rear naked chokes and arm bars. And, she's actually very good in the scramble. She's able to, hustle, get on top, and she was able to do that time and time again against Justine Kish. But that was a problem for her against Paige Van Sant. She was getting out-hustled in those scrambles. And, after that first round, her gas tank looked to have depleted. But since then, man, her gas tank has been looking great, against Kish, she was relentless, man. In that third round, she literally choked the shit out of her. So, I don't know. I mean, that was a great performance right there by Felice. And then on the feet, Felice is no joke either, man. She has a nice body kick. She has a good right hand that has some pretty good pop on it, and she actually has good timing. She'll hit you with that overhand right when you're trying to come in, and she has a jab overhand right combination as well. And when she blitzes in and uses her own attacks, she usually comes in with the 1-2, and she does have fast hands. And Felice actually, when you start to get over aggressive, she will use good body work and go back up top with the left-right combo. And Felice is in fantastic shape, man, and she's on the best run of her career. She seems very confident, and I just think that she's technically better than Courtney Casey. I think that she's going to have faster hands than Courtney Casey, and I think that she's actually going to be able to be a little bit stronger in the clinch. And I actually think she'll be the one getting, double unders, taking down Courtney Casey. And I don't think Herrig is going to lead with her head first after she saw what happened to Jessica Aguilar. I think she's going to be able to, negate that up-kicking game of Courtney Casey. I think that her right hand will be a problem for Casey too. I think Casey will be, getting hit with a lot of right hands as she comes in. And I think it'll be a fun scrap, man. I think it'll be a good, competitive fight. But I see Felice Herrig getting the decision here. And, I think Felice Herrig is definitely someone to look at for, potential top 5 matchups, potential for fighting for the title. Because, like I said, she's one of those girls that, is very well-rounded, and as well as a well-rounded skill set, she has cardio. So that's a very, very hard person to beat. And I think she actually is a pretty bad matchup for the champion, Rose Namajunas. But we're going to be moving on to the next fight, and that's, this is a great, great, great fight. Two very good prospects, man. It's Jakar Close, and he's going to be fighting against David Tamer, and this is kind of a striker versus grappler matchup. Tamer is a great striker. He's won some K1 championships. He throws hard leg kicks, hard body kicks, and he likes to start a little bit slow. He starts to read what you're gonna do, start to see your tells, and then once he gets in a rhythm, he really starts to pick you apart, man. And he gets more and more aggressive. He start to throw jumping kicks and spinning kicks, and he likes to catch you coming in with a straight left hand, and then he'll follow that up with a big hard body kick. And Tamer can get hit and he can get hurt though. He was dropped by Lando Venata. He was dropped by Johnny Nunez on Tough, and he was rocked by Jason Novelli as well. And in his fight against Novelli, Novelli was able to control him against the cage for short periods of time. But he had a great performance in that fight. He ended up catching Novelli with a huge left hand, and it was a really devastating KO. And he comes in always usually left hand first, and then you'll follow with the right hand, and it's he has a lot of left hand right hand combinations. And, he definitely is a finisher, man. When he has you hurt, he goes for the kill, and that's evident by his finishes in the UFC. He has a lot of devastating finishes. And he also has great recoverability, man. He knows how to fight in a war. When he was fighting against Lando Venata, he was taking some huge shots, and, his ability to recover and, get right back in the fight and, not be discouraged at all was very impressive, and he trains at that All-Stars gym, and that All-Stars gym always has, pretty solid wrestling, man, and, Tamer's no different. He shows some good double leg takedowns. He surprised Lando Venata a lot with that, and he landed 3 or 4 pretty decent double legs, and, he wasn't able to hold it on the ground, or he wasn't able to do much with it, but, it just keeps his opponent honest, man, that he knows that Tamer can shoot for takedowns, and he also showed some good takedown defense, and he had the ability to sprawl, and he also gets up pretty quickly against the cage when you take him down. But he's yet to really fight anyone who's a wrestler, man. He's fought, 3 guys that all were willing to strike with him: Lando Venata, Jason Novelli, and his first fight he fought another Swedish guy who was also a striker. And Tamor is a high-level striker, man. So if you want to strike with him, it's at your own peril. It's going to be a tough fight to win. And Tamor does a great job of catching kicks, and he in that clinch when he was fighting with Lando Venata, he would catch the kick and counter. But in that clinch, he was landing some brutal knees, man, some huge knees to the body. And Tamor has only been wrestling for 4 years, so that's something that I'm really thinking about. And because he's going to be fighting a lifelong wrestler in Jakar Close, and Jakar Close actually fought another guy who's trained at that All Stars Training Center in the past as well, who's a big time prospect, Mark Diakese. And I think Mark Diakese is actually a more explosive, maybe even more dangerous striker than Tamor in one-punch scenarios, just, quick flash knockouts, just because Mark Diakese is kind of in the same mode of a Michael Venom Page. He's very athletic, just extremely athletic, quick twitch, and I think maybe he's he would be stronger, and he actually maybe has better one-punch knockout, one-kick knockout ability. But I think that Tamor is definitely a much more technical striker. But Close is an explosive wrestler. He closes that distance almost immediately in his fights, and he's very good at it. He closes the distance with big shots. He lands a big double knee when you get your back against the cage, and he's able to hold you there. And he lands knees and elbows against the cage, and you could tell that he's very physically strong. He does a great job of controlling your wrist with his hand, standing when you're against the cage, and he'll land knees to the body and head and make it hard for you to defend it. And I really enjoyed his fight against Mark Diakese because he was extremely smart in that fight. He was not willing to strike at a distance with Diakese. He would continue to call him back to the center. He would not ever, engage when they were at Diakese's kicking range. And the only time he would engage is when he would have his leg kicks or when he would completely close the distance. So, he was all the way on the outside at a safe distance. And then when he felt like he could explode in safely and get inside, he would. And, he landed some hard jumping knees to the body. And he landed a massive right left-hand combinations. He definitely has power in his punches. And when your back's against the cage, that's when he gets very aggressive, and sometimes he can get a little bit too wild. And against Tamor, I think that's something that he has to sure up, and I think he will. I don't think he'll get extremely wild against the cage. He landed these hard low kicks against Diakese and basically turned his leg into mush, man. And Diakese was falling on that leg, and he couldn't do anything. And he was actually using some nice foot stops, Marco Hua style, in the clinch, and that was kind of fun to watch. Old school. And there's on top, he does have big ground and pound, and I think that he's going to be the more explosive guy, and I think he's going to be a little bit faster, faster at closing the distance, and I think he'll start a little bit faster as well. And, on top, he throws big ground and pound. He has heavy on top with great top control. So I think that, one of the things to look at is if he gets Tamor down, can Tamor get up? I'm not sure about that. And, I think that Tamor's been match made real well in his career. He's fought, 3 guys that were all willing to strike with him. But I just think Close is a bad matchup, man. I think Close is... I don't think he's going to give Tamor the distance to strike the way that he wants to. I think that he's gonna close that distance. I think he's gonna be controlling Tamer against a cage. I think he's gonna be taking him down. And I'm going to go with Drakkar Close by decision in that one. I think that he's going to be able to, dictate the pace of that fight. And up next, we have Alex Oliveira versus Yancy Medeiros. And shit, man, Alex Oliveira, that dude is dangerous, man. He's become starting to get into his own. And, he's definitely going to be the more explosive athlete. And I think he's going to be stronger as well. That KO he had of Ryan LaFleur was devastating. It was KO of the year candidate. And, he has good grappling. He's really good at controlling his opponents against the cage. He does a great job with clinch control. And he goes for trip takedowns, when he's doing that. And you also, is very good at getting the back position from standing up. And then he'll use a suplex, get you down to the ground. And, also he goes for some decent body kicks. His striking style is, he has a very long stance, and he likes to dart in and out. He tries to hide when he's entering, and, tries to blitz in, catch you off guard. And when he does attack, he attacks with, with kicks and hard punches. He has a lot of long-distance kicks, and, before, when he first entered into the UFC, he was... just a raw talent. Now he's starting to game plan, starting to put it together, and not being so wild, He definitely would take the fight where he's the strongest and control it from there. In his last fight against Ryan LaFleur, he was, getting out grappled in that fight in that first round. And then that second round, he made an adjustment and started to, make Ryan LaFleur come to him instead of following Ryan LaFleur, and he was able to, bait Ryan LaFleur into a takedown attempt that he was, ready for, and he threw an uppercut that, turned the lights out on Ryan LaFleur, man. And he's fighting Yancy Medeiros, who's one of the funnest fighters on the roster to watch. He's a kill or be killed guy. He trains out there with Nick and Nate a lot. Trains out in Hawaii with Max Holloway, so they're probably going to be training together for this fight, And, these are two very long welterweights. Yancy is someone that really likes to use his distance as well. He has a good jab, throws a solid cross, and, throws a lot of kicks to the body, a lot of front kicks to the body. He has a nice spinning back kick. And sometimes he'll switch it up and go to the head with that kick, and disguise it. He KO'd Sean Spencer with the head kick. And, he also has good power in his hands, too. He's no one that you could sleep on, He's had some pretty good finishes in his last two fights. He had a great overhand right, short left hook combination to KO Eric Silva. And, that was an impressive performance. That was one of Yancy's best performances of his career. But he does have a very open striking style. But he did, try to look a little bit more composed in his last fight. He was trying to return to his range after attacking with his shots, and he wasn't as open as he was versus, someone like, let's say, when he fought Francisco Trinaldo. But, I think Yancy, every single time he gets to, this upper echelon, upper level, I just think that he's not quite as athletic, not quite as good on the ground or on the feet as Oliveira. I think Oliveira is going to be the more explosive athlete. I think Yancy's, there to get hit too much. And I think Oliveira is going to, catch Yancy in that second round. And I think he's going to, ultimately finish him with ground and pound on the ground. And I'll say it'll happen in round 2. So I'm going to go with Alex Oliveira to defeat Yancy Medeiros by ground and pound in round 2. And that should set up Alex Oliveira to get a high-profile fight, man. That'll be 4 in a row for him. And he's already ranked 15th, so maybe you could give him a top, 7 to 10 guy after that. And, he's deserved it, man. He's been on a tear lately, and he's really, turned himself into a dangerous guy. But up next, we have Charles Oliveira versus Paul Felder. And, Charles Oliveira is, he's a bit of a tweener. He's been, pinging between 145 and 155, and, missing weight a lot of times for 145, though. So he does seem like he's a, makes 155 much easier. He's a submission artist. He's finished 9 of his last 11 wins by submission, and he's just a finisher overall, man. 20 of his 21 wins has been by finish. He has some okay stand up. He does have a little bit open, and he is hittable. Anthony Pettis was able to drop him with some big body kicks, and Paul Felder, also has some good body kicks. That's something to look at. But he was able to survive off those body kicks, and he was beat up on the ground very bad, and it didn't slow him down at all. He just kept pressing forward. He landed some hard shots of his own, in that second round as the fight went on. So he's not going to be detoured by a bad first round by getting hit. That's never going to happen, and this is a guy that in that clinch, man, you almost just don't want to clinch with him. You almost just don't want to even touch him, man, because he's just so good at getting the back from scrambles, man. He gets it in just very odd positions. He'll take that back, and he's just so dangerous with his rear naked chokes. Just his long arms and his ability to sink those in is just second to none. And he has some of the best chokes in UFC history, man. And he finishes a lot of people with those, and he does throw some decent front kicks to the body, but he does struggle with guys who could, take him down and, attack him with submissions. 2 of his last 3 fights, he's been submitted by a guillotine, even though he's such a great, strangler himself. So that's not something that Paul Felder will look to implement, but that's just something, to look at in the future. Maybe he could shore up his defensive grappling. But, Felder's a striker. He has a wide variety of strikes. He'll throw big kicks to the legs and body, really winds up on those. And he'll use a switch kick to the head that's, pretty well disguised. And he's landed it quite a few times in his career. And he does get taken down in his fights. And, he has been taken down and controlled and beat up by Francisco Trinaldo. But he does have pretty good takedown defense against the cage. When you're against the cage, he does a pretty good job of not getting taken down. And, he does a good job of, breaking and attacking off that break. He also has a great step-in knee. And everyone knows about Felder's spinning techniques, you know what I mean? He throws a lot of spinning back fist, spinning heel kicks. But, recently, as of late, since he went to Duke Roufus, I think that, his hands have just improved a lot, Before, he was a lot more kick-heavy and a lot more wild and open on the feet, throwing a lot of, spinning techniques, things like that. Things that leave you open to get taken down, things that leave you open to get, countered. And since he went to Rufus Sport, he's becoming much more technical and a little bit less wild. And he's been living in the gym, teaching classes. So, he's living that MMA lifestyle. And, it's also shown in his takedown defense, man. He's shown improvements against Stevie Ray. There was a problem in his earlier career with getting controlled against the feds of the clinch. And against Stevie Ray, he was, actually able to get Stevie Ray against the cage, And, he landed a sick knee, man. Dropped Stevie Ray with the knee and then had some clean follow-up elbows on the ground to clean KO Stevie Ray, man. And, I'm really feeling Paul Felder. I think that Paul Felder is, starting to come into his own. He's starting to be a little bit more composed. And I think he'll just need to, work his hands and that left body kick. Work those hands and work that left body kick and just try to completely negate the entries. You don't want to be fighting against the cage with Oliveira. You don't want to be clinching with him because that gives him the chance to take that back, man. But I don't think Paul Felder would do that. I think Paul Felder is going to try to keep it in the middle of that cage. I think he's going to use his body kicks, use his hands, and I'm going to go with the upset here. I think Paul Felder is going to, get the victory here. I think he's going to win a decision. I think he's going to be able to outstrike Oliveira on the feet. And up next, we have Tecia Torres versus Michelle Waterson, which is a interesting fight. Tecia Torres has been calling out Michelle for a long time, and they're two of the more well-rounded fighters at 115 women's division. So Waterson is a karate practitioner, the karate hottie, and she's very good with that front kick, and she's very good with that front leg. She uses that front kick to the body, that oblique kick, and the front kick to the face. So she uses all three of those kicks, and it kind of disguises where it's going to go when she throws it. She landed a lot of those oblique kicks on Rose Namajunas, but they didn't seem to have an effect on her, And she actually likes to attack with that front kick to the body, and then she'll come in with some quick hand combinations, She uses the head and arm throw a lot, and she is able to, get it on women like Paige Van Zandt, and she was actually able to choke Paige Van Zandt out after she got that. She was able to get it on Angela Magana as well. But I don't really like that move for MMA, man, because it really exposes your back. And once she did that against Rose Namajunas, Rose, took the back, and that's the thing that you get when you do it. You get your back taken at times, and I think that Tisha's definitely someone that if Michelle tries to do that would take her back. And so I wouldn't really think Michelle should be trying to do that. And Michelle does have an active guard, she'll try to attack with rubber guard, and she'll attack with arm bars and triangles, and on the feet she really uses that front leg, and then she'll try to blitz with a right hand, and she does have an incredible chin, she ate that flush head kick from Rose and was able to recover, so that just showed that she has good recoverability, even though she got choked out slightly after that. But, she was able to recover from that head kick, which I think would have put a lot of women out cold. And Michelle's definitely a good fighter, man. She's definitely upper echelon. And she's fighting Tisha, who's another, great fighter. I think Tisha is definitely going to have the athleticism advantage and speed advantage on the feet. She's just, very fast and explosive. And she throws hard leg kicks, and then she comes in with fast hand combinations, and she's very good at, keeping her distance, sliding in and out of range, and countering you with big shots. She has a very good counter right hand, and in that clinch, she's very aggressive. She throws a lot of punches in the clinch, a lot of uppercuts. She threw a right hand in that clinch that rocked Rose in that first round in their last fight, the one that she lost, not the one she won. But she does a good job of getting her feet in the hips and standing up. Once you take her down, she pushes off with her legs, gets up, and she's good moving backwards and forwards. She uses good lateral movement and brings people into her counters, but then she also attacks with big explosive combinations, But she can't get countered coming inside, and that's something that she definitely has to look out for. She has to look out for that, that straight of Waterson, And she's been wanting to fight Michelle for a long time. She was calling out Michelle before her last fight against Juliana Lima, and I guess she finally got Michelle, I think Torres will have the explosiveness and speed advantage. And I also think that Torres will have a strength advantage in this fight. I think she's going to be a little bit stronger than Michelle. I think that, she's going to try to keep her distance and, just use her striking, while Michelle is going to try to use her grappling. Because I think Michelle knows that on the feet, Torres is going to be able to land these blitzing combinations and get in and out, and I think that Michelle just isn't quick enough, And, Torres got her first finish in her last fight, actually. She was able to get a rear naked choke, and I'm actually feeling Tisha Torres in this one. I think Tisha is going to be able to win by decision here. I think she's just going to be a little bit quicker, a little bit sharper on the feet than Michelle, and I think that she'll be able to, defend the grappling, and I think she's going to get the victory here. And up next, we have Henry Cejudo versus Sergio Pettis. And, this is a pretty straightforward fight for me. I think Sergio Pettis is on a pretty big hype train. I don't think he's as good as people put him out to be. Henry is a Olympic gold medalist, and everyone knows what the Pettis brothers struggle with, man. And that's, heavy grapplers and people that can close that distance and, land big shots on him and kind of get him tentative, get him moving on that back foot. And if that happens, I think that's going to be a huge night for very long night and a huge night for Henry Cejudo. because I think that he's just going to be. I think he's going to have more power, and I think he's going to have the faster hands than Pettis as well. And against Wilson Hayes, he just showed his striking is starting to go on another level. He was landing some nice body kicks, and he timed an amazing right hand that was just like a piston and just dropped Cejudo and finished him. He has sick knees in the clinch, and he doesn't use his wrestling much, but he did take down Demetrius Johnson, and the way that he picks that single leg is just beautiful, man. And that right hand that he has is money. He dropped Wilson with it, and dropped Joe Benavidez with it, and he also comes in with hard leg kicks. He uses good feints to throw his leg kicks. He really hides the timing when he's going to use he uses broken timing to use those leg kicks, and he actually does a good job of catching kicks and coming back with the right hand, which I think is going to be a big thing in this fight. I think that he's going to be able to catch quite a few kicks that Pettis throws and counter with that right hand. And I actually think Sergio is a little bit more technical and less wild than Anthony, especially on the feet, and he actually has better takedown defense than Anthony, but I think that Anthony does have the better jiu-jitsu game. And Brandon Moreno, when he did take him down, he was able to get the back and control it for the entire round, so that was a little bit troubling to see, but he did defend the attacks, he defended the choke attempts, so he actually had a pretty good fight that fight, he was able to get Moreno's timing, and he started to, attack with a really nice right hand and a jab that he uses to set it up, and, he walks forward and waits until he gets in his range, he doesn't throw from the outside, and he's very composed, and he always stays at good balance, so that gives him his good takedown defense, and as the fight goes on, he starts to get in his rhythm, and he really starts to feel you out, and when he gets that jab pumping out, that's when he's really at his best, he gets that jab pumping, he starts to feel like he's in a rhythm, and he really starts to pick you apart, he actually has a great right hand counters as well, but he has left his chin out there, got KO'd by Ryan Benoit, and he's been finished by Alex Caceres as well. I think Pettis, just like his brother, is great in space, and I just don't think Cejudo's going to give him that space. I think Cejudo's going to be coming in with strong punches, and I actually think that he's going to use his wrestling in this fight. I think he's going to, do the right thing. I think he's going to be smart with it. I think he's going to be able to control Pettis against the cage. I think he'll take Pettis down, and if he does that, man, if he uses his wrestling, uses his grappling, I think it's going to be an easy fight for Henry Cejudo, so I think Cejudo's going to win a decision in that one. And up next, man, we have a Fight of the Year candidate, and Justin Gaethje against Eddie Alvarez. This could just be war, man. Justin Gaethje is just relentless. He comes forward, just covers up, gets hit with huge shots, gets straight rocked. It doesn't even matter. The dude's coming right back in your face 10 seconds later, and he just chops your legs with huge leg kicks, inside and outside leg kicks, and I don't know, man. He has an iron chin. It was tested by Michael Johnson. He was rocked with. He got hit with some huge shots. I actually think Michael Johnson is actually, a little bit of a tougher matchup on the feet than Eddie Alvarez for Gaethje, just purely because Michael Johnson has a major speed advantage on Justin Gaethje, and he was using it with his lateral movement, and he was able to, land the uppercut, and he has extremely fast hands. I think that Michael Johnson has some of the fastest hands in the UFC. So, those two things together, make it a little bit more difficult for Gaethje, because Gaethje does have a little bit of a plotting style. He loads up on his punches, and, Michael Johnson's going to be a little bit harder to hit, a little bit harder to fight than someone like Eddie Alvarez, in my opinion. I think Eddie Alvarez is going to be, right there in the pocket, right there to throw with Gaethje. It's just going to be who can take it, and Gaethje's right hand is very fast and very good timing, and he likes to land it when he's coming in, and then he'll throw just a beautiful uppercut. He landed several of those uppercuts on Michael Johnson, and when he has you hurt, man, he batters you. He'll throw huge leg kicks and right hand, and he completely broke Michael Johnson, man. Michael Johnson wasn't even out, he just slumped against the cage with when he was landing those elbows and knees, man. And Eddie is the same way, man. Both those guys have that Bushido spirit. Eddie's been in so many wars in his careers, and neither of their spirits can be broken, man. They both just recover so well from shots and come back and win when they lose, come back and win after they get rocked. And, that's just something that shows, the heart of a champion. And they both had that. And, Eddie Alvarez has really started to take a lot of damage in the last few fights, though, man. I think that he got, destroyed and embarrassed by Conor McGregor, knocked out very badly. And then against Dustin Poirier as well, man, he was really, taking a beating in that fight before he landed those illegal knees. Poirier was on his way to a 10-8 round in that second round, And, I think that Eddie, he has had a very good UFC career, don't get me wrong. He won the title. You can't take anything away from him, but he's had some pretty favorable matchups, catching guys at the right time. He caught Gilbert Melendez in Mexico. Gilbert gassed, and Gilbert hasn't won a fight since then. Since he fought Alvarez, same thing with he fought Anthony Pettis, who's has lost 5 of his last 7 fights, and he fought RDA when RDA passed out 2 times from his weight cut. So. Those are 3 things that you really have to look at. I think a lot of his wins have been guys that have been on, the downside of their careers, or in, RDA's case, just a terrible weight cut. And, he's actually been using a lot of grappling heavy game plan to win his fights. He used it against Gilbert Melendez. He was able to take Melendez down. Melendez was actually beating him up on the feet. And same thing with Anthony Pettis. He was able to use his grinding cage work, take him down, and so I don't think he's going to be able to do that against Justin Gaethje, I think Gaethje's definitely not going to let him, hold on to him in the clinch, things like that. And I think Gaethje actually is the better wrestler in this matchup. But Eddie does have good boxing in the pocket, and Gaethje definitely has to be wary of just covering up like he does, man, because Alvarez is definitely someone that'll attack to that body, man. He'll attack hard to that body if you just cover up like that. And he'll also switch the angles on his punches and, get in on that shield. And that's very nerve-wracking for me, the way that he covers up like that. And I actually think this is a very similar fight. I think Justin Gaethje is very similar to Rafael dos Anjos in the way that he puts pressure on you and just makes the cage small, That's what Dos Anjos was doing to Eddie, man. He had Eddie pushed up against that cage for almost the entirety of the round, And Eddie was just able to rock him with the huge combination, and Eddie went for the finish big time with that. He had the flying knee, and then he finished with, huge flurry, massive uppercuts, But I think in all his fights, I've seen Eddie is too willing to fight with his back against the cage, man. He did that against RDA, he did it against Conor, and he did it against Dustin Poirier. And it just gets him in trouble, because he can't back up, and he just has to brawl. And, he has a nice short left hook. And, he started to find some okay success against Conor in that second round when he would double up with that overhand right. And he would just, he was landed it a few times. But I just think Eddie's taken a lot of damage in his last 2 fights. And he is real heavy on that lead leg. And I think Gaethje's definitely going to be beaten up on that front leg of Eddie. And I just don't think Eddie's nearly as fast as Michael Johnson. And I think Gaethje and him, will have very similar hand speed. So it won't be, Gaethje getting caught with huge counters in the pocket like he was against Michael Johnson, I don't think. And I don't think Eddie has the greatest takedowns. He does, have good takedowns, solid takedowns. But I don't think he has takedowns to take someone down or grind someone against the cage with the wrestling at the level of Justin Gaethje, And Eddie does carry his chin high, and he was getting hit with, a lot of jabs against Dustin Poirier. And I think Gaethje is just going to be able to back Eddie up and, put the fight where he wants it, which is Eddie's back against the cage. And I think Eddie's going to do exactly what Justin Gaethje wants him to. I think he's going to throw heat in that pocket and try to get Gaethje off of him, And I think he's going to be brawling, man. And Eddie's just taking a lot of damage in his last 2 fights, man. And he's starting to look a little bit more defensive, especially against Poirier. That first round, he was backing up a lot. He was very defensive. And, You know, that's something that you don't like to see. That's something where you're starting to see maybe Eddie's getting a little bit gun shy. And I think Gaethje's going to get Eddie against the cage. And I think he's going to unload with big shots and big leg kicks. And I think it's going to be, you know, a beatdown, man. I think by round 2, Eddie's going to be really beaten up. And I think Gaethje is going to finish him against the cage with accumulation, man. I think that Eddie's just taken way too much damage in his last few fights. And we're moving on to the co-main event. And shit, man, this is another fight that's just, you know, amazing. This card is amazing, man. Alistair Overeem versus Francis Ngannou. And, you know, this is one of the best heavyweight fights the UFC could put together, you know. Francis is huge. He's a massive guy with just unbelievable power. You know, he's able to finish a lot of guys with, you know, not even like his best punch. You know, like when he knocked out his first fight in the UFC, when he knocked out Luis Henrique, he just hit him with a very small punch. I think it was Luis Henrique. But, you know, he hit him with a punch moving backwards that was very short, you know, and just knocked him out unconscious, man. But, you know, Francis Ngannou is someone who's actually, you know, for his size, you might think that he's a brute, comes in. But no, you know, he's real patient. He doesn't ever overextend or attack wild. And he stays on the outside. He stays composed and picks his shots. And he actually has some pretty nice combinations. He throws, you know, some 1, 2, 3 combinations. And he also throws a nice uppercut, which, you know, knocks people dead, you know. But he has very raw talent. You know, he is like a once-in-a-lifetime athlete, but it's just hard to, you know, for me to imagine him fighting this level of competition after just 4 years. But he's here, man, and he's making the best of it. You know, he had that Kimball against Anthony Hamilton that just showed just how ridiculously strong this guy is, where he literally just grabbed his arm, pulled it, dragged him to the ground, and just cranked that Kimball, man. That was incredible. He was able to, you know, to get off Anthony Hamilton's body lock, rip the guy's arm out, and just throw him to the ground, you know. But Ngannou has a 100% finishing rate, and his last fight against Arlovsky, that was just a brutal KO. But, you know, Ngannou, this really, in my opinion, is his first test in the UFC. You know, up to this point, he beat a debuting Luis Henrique. He beat Bojan Mihailovic, who's 0-3 in the UFC. He beat Curtis Blades, who was debuting. And actually, that was shaping up to be a good fight. And Blades actually had to, the ref stopped it because of a cut, you know. And then you fought Anthony Hamilton, who's hasn't won a fight since and has lost 6 of his last 7 fights. And then he fought Arlovsky, who, coming into the fight against Ngannou, had lost 3 in a row. And he lost 2 in a row after and lost 5 of his last 6 fights. So, you know, this really is the first test for Ngannou, and Ngannou is a novice, man. He's only been fighting for 4 years, and he does show that, you know, in certain places. You know, he was able to get taken down and controlled against the cage by Luis Henrique, and he couldn't get up, man, or he couldn't get off the cage. You know, the ref was actually forced to break him up and take him up off the ground. So he did show, you know, some good ability to control posture, not take damage, but, you know, he wasn't getting up. And, you know, that's something that I think Overeem definitely can take advantage of, you know. Overeem is a veteran, man, and he's a legend in the game. He's definitely one of the best strikers in the history of the heavyweight division. And he's kind of changed his style. He used to be a come forward brute, try to kill you. And now he's turned into more of like a sniper. You know, he likes to stay on the outside and stays patient. He waits for his opportunities and protects that chin, man. He knows that his chin is, you know, not as good as it used to be. So he really protects that chin, and he doesn't put himself in a lot of danger of getting knocked out anymore. And he attacks with a lot of kicks. You know, he has also has a great straight left hand. He catch you that when you're moving in on him. And I think you should use that same game plan to use against Mark Hunt, against Ngannou, man. I think he needs to be way on the outside or all the way on the inside, you know. And I love the way that he would tie up Hunt when they got in that boxing range and then back out. You know, he was avoiding getting hit in the pocket. You know, he was avoiding getting in a brawl. And, you know, he was actually able to, work hard against the cage with huge knees to the body. And that's what ultimately finished it, man. He landed a lot of knees to the body and warmed out. And then he ultimately landed that huge, brutal knee to the head that closed the show, man. And knocking out Mark unconscious, which was, a scary knockout, to be honest with you. And, Overeem is chinny, so he can get, stopped at any time. And that's what makes this fight so interesting. He's got knocked out many times. He was dropped hard by Verdum in that third round in their last fight. And but he hasn't been knocked out recently. He's actually won 5 of his last 6 fights. And the one loss was by knockout, but Stipe's knocking out everyone, man. So, I don't know, man. I think that he's going to be able to, I think Overeem's going to be able to get Ngannou against that cage. And I think he's going to be able to rain knees, man. And I think that if he does that, I think that if he actually uses that game plan of forcing Ngannou in against the cage, closing the distance, and, because Overeem's usually a guy that likes to strike in space, but, with someone like Ngannou, I don't know if you want to, risk that for very long. With his power, he could catch you with one shot and have you completely out of there, So I think if Overeem does, close that distance and get Ngannou against that cage, he could really start to rain knees on him. And, I think he's going to be able to do that. I think he's going to be able to grind Ngannou against that cage. I think he'll maybe even take Ngannou down. I think we're going to see the grappling of Alistair Overeem in this fight, And I think Overeem will win a decision here. I'm going to go with Alistair Overeem by decision. And up next, man, we have the main event, and it's Jose Aldo against Max Holloway, man. And Aldo is just underappreciated, man. Everyone shits on that guy now that he lost to Conor McGregor, and people act like he hasn't been one of the greatest fighters of all time. Like, it kind of pisses me off, man. That guy's just underappreciated gem in MMA, man. He's one of the best fighters ever. Aldo, his striking is just on another level from, majority of the people that he's fought in his career. He has hard left hooks, and he comes in with great feints. He fakes those overhands, and he comes in with the uppercut. His first explosion, man, when he comes in with his punches, is just so fast. He was definitely fucking up Max in that first round with that explosion, man. He would explode. He landed a straight right, very nice overhand right combination that really rocked Holloway in that first round. And Aldo's defense is just incredible. He uses that jab. He stops you in his tracks. He always has his hands high. And, he just lands so many jabs. And he lands that jab and left to the left hook to the overhand right, which is just a great combination. And, in that first round, he was really putting it on Max Holloway. And that second round, I think he won as well, And so he won those first 2 rounds. But in that second round, you started to see Holloway started to put his punches together. He started to put it in more combinations and start to use his kicks. And he was starting to land that right hand on the double. When he would double it up, triple it up, he would hit him with the second or third shot. And but in that fight, apparently Jose Aldo had a leg injury, which that's a very pivotal thing to look at, man, because Jose Aldo has some of the best leg kicks in MMA history, and he didn't throw any in that first fight, and that's something that Holloway, is very prone to getting hit with leg kicks, man. Labus actually landed 25 out of 28 leg kicks in their fight, and Jeremy Stevens landed 24 out of 26 leg kicks. So, if that really was a big factor in which Aldo had a leg injury, and now he's thinking about using his kicks, that could really be a factor, that could really change the fight, because those first 2 rounds, man, Aldo with the speed was really giving Max Holloway problems, and if he could start to, break down that front leg early, maybe he could, take away some of that pop and some of that volume striking that Max brings in those later rounds, and that's Max's biggest strength, man, and Max is a volume striker, and he gets into the fight, as the fight goes on, he'll start to get your timing, and he'll break you with volume and pressure, man. And that's what he did to Aldo, man. He hit Aldo with the 1-2 combination, dropped him, and then, Aldo showed some amazing heart, man. He survived on the ground, and he was actually, didn't look like he was recovered, but when the fight was stopped, he was fine. He had his hands up defending. He was actually giving the thumbs up to Big John, but he just couldn't get out of the position, man, and John had to mercifully end it for him, you know. But Aldo was hit with some huge bombs on the ground, man, and you know, this is an intriguing fight, you know. If Aldo's leg is back to 100%, that could be a massive factor, you know. But I just can't bet against Max Holloway, you know. Aldo's lost 2 of his last 3 fights. He's gotten finished, and you have to wonder, you know, 5 months, is that enough time to recover from a beating like that Max Holloway gave him? I'm not sure about that, you know. And just because of all those things, I'm going to still go with Max Holloway. But, you know, this is a very intriguing fight. Like I said, you know, if Aldo comes in 100% in shape, perfectly good, and landing those leg kicks and moving around, I would not be shocked to, you know, hear Ngannou and have Aldo at the top of the throat again. I bet the UFC would love that, huh? But shit, man, there's UFC 218 for you guys. I hope you liked it. I hope we do pretty good. You know, we've been on a pretty good tear, man. I haven't had a negative week yet in these 5 weeks, and actually had you know, 3 out of the 5 have been you know, double digit wins for us. So that's pretty good. We're gonna try to keep it up on this card. I actually did a lot of film study for this, so I'm really feeling pretty confident. I'm hoping that you know, I'm gonna do pretty good on this card. And tomorrow I'm really gonna try to get you guys that the tough show, and if I get it to you guys on Thursday, I apologize, but I'll definitely get it out before it starts. And you know, subscribe for more, and thanks for watching. You know, I'm gonna be continuing to do these, and hopefully we can continue to grow together, you know.